All right, guys, I was asked by a longtime friend to respond or react to this George Carlin video. George Carlin is a comedian, a very funny comedian, in my opinion. And I think that he was right on about a few things, but like all of us, can be wrong about a few things. So I'm going to respond. This is a live response. So let's see what he has to say.
We have got to the point where literally anybody can
Skip this commercial.
44. This is the first.
Because I got to tell you the truth, folks. I got to tell you the truth. When it comes to bullshit, big time, major league bullshit, you have to stand in awe of the all-time champion of false promises and exaggerated claims, religion. No contest. No.
Automatically, what I'm going to say is you have a charismatic character who knows how to communicate, move a crowd. Obviously, he's speaking in a time, 1999, where the world was very, very godless, against God. Anytime somebody would say God is bullcrap around this time, people were like, yeah, because we want our own wills, right? And we have our own disappointments with religion and people and things like that. And so this is where the state of the world is right now. But I want you to hear something that he just said right now. Go back real quick. That I can automatically refute.
And major league bullshit, you have to stand in awe of the all-time champion of false promises and exaggerated claims, religion.
False promises and exaggerated claims. We can look at that. What promises is he talking about? And what claims is he talking about? Because we can historically, scientifically, through many disciplines, archaeology, geology, just the amount of data that we have. George Carlin is probably, you ask him, does Alexander the Great exist? He'll probably tell you yes, but no one probably ever told him that we have so much more documentation and evidence for the existence of Jesus, that he actually walked this earth. So I can automatically contest this. He says no contest. But yet we're only 10 seconds in and I have contest, because there is proof, there is evidence, and it's unsurmountable. It would take years to dive through all of it, but just some of it can debunk this. Let's go.
No contest. No contest.
Pobre viejito.
Religion easily has the greatest bullshit story ever told. Think about it. Religion has actually convinced people that there's an invisible man living.
That's not what religion has convinced people of. And this quote unquote invisible man has actually walked among us. We have the cross that he was crucified on. We have the tomb where he was resurrected in. We have the shroud of Turin that he was wrapped in. So we're looking at an emotional man that's hurt from something, discouraged from something, and I can feel him on that level, right? There is a day where you question, like, what is this? But obviously he has, how you say this, decisively put together his ideas and sentiments and is expressing them in a way that can move a ignorant crowd, or a crowd that doesn't want to believe in God,
in the sky, who watches everything you do every minute of every day. And the invisible man has a special list of 10 things he does not want you to do. And if you do any of these 10 things, he has a special place full of fire and smoke and burning and torture and anguish where he will send you to live.
What do you guys see here? I see an angry old man. He's mad. Now, I don't know why he's mad. I don't know his life. I don't know what's going on. But it's easy to see what we're looking at here. It's an angry man.
And suffer and burn and choke and scream and cry forever and ever till the end of time. But he loves you.
Let's talk about that, right? So, by his standards, he's saying that doesn't make sense. That there can be a place called hell where evil people goes that have rejected God's love and mercy. You know, doesn't make sense to him. But I think one thing that we all fail to do at times is ask if the message of the Bible is true, if these 10 commandments, murder and dishonoring your parents and adultery, cheating on your wife, if those things are truly wrong and bad, obviously God wouldn't want you to do them. And it just turns into this big conversation of, well, why did he allow it in the first place? Well, it's like, that's exactly why we do have to start from zero when we're having these conversations. Because if not, people can wiggle their way out and keep their position of passiveness and complacency and convenience. It's not convenient to believe in this. I used to tell people, you think I want to believe in this? It's not convenient. It's not. It adds to my conscience. It adds to my conviction of, man, but I've seen the truth of it, right? I've slept out of marriage. I've seen the consequences of it. I've seen the damage that it does on men and women when we do these things. So I have an objective reality I can look at. And not just me, but, you know, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. So let's look at the statistics of crime, welfare, the overall well-being of humanity when they were living Christian standards in comparison to when those Christian standards were removed from schools, removed from society, separated state and religion. Let's look at the numbers. Let's be objective, because the world did not get better by trying to remove God from themselves. It did not. We could look at this data for days on end, and you'll see that I'm not just talking out my ass.
This game, you're not ready for.
He loves you.
He loves you. He does love you. I don't know any love greater than somebody laying their life down for you. There is no love greater than that.
He loves you and he needs money. He always needs money.
No. God does not need money. But the human institutions do. And this is the problem. You go from one topic to another, but these topics need to be addressed, like I said, from zero. Like first, we need to get to the point of acknowledging, do we believe there is a creator at all? Did some being, did something create this very specific design and world and creation? When you look in the world and the dolphins and the sea and the waves and the trees and humans and our love and everything that's wired, pre-wired, do we see a creator? Can you look at this tool and come to the conclusion that somebody or something didn't create this? No, you can't. No, you can't. This is why you need to go through these arguments one thing at a time. Now he's going into, why does the church need money? Well, I would say, well, what is the church? And if the church is what the Bible says it is, what history says it is, then first of all, if it is that, why wouldn't you want to be a part of that body? And if it is that, why wouldn't you want to support that body? What community do you know of? What family do you know of that does not need contribution from all of its members? If you were just part of an organization and said, I'm not going to do nothing, I'm not going to contribute in no way, I'm not going to work, I'm not going to pay, I'm not going to pitch in, I'm not going to bring nothing to the potluck, that's asinine. That doesn't make sense. That's not reality. These institutions here on earth need contribution. Let's continue.
He's all powerful, all perfect, all knowing, and all wise. Somehow just can't handle money. Religion.
Again, it's not him handling the money. It's people.
Takes in billions of dollars. They pay no taxes, and they always need a little more. Now, you talk about a good bullshit story.
Now, I will say this. Is there religious institutions who are mishandling money, taking advantage of people? 100%. So many people have used the name of Christ, have used the name of religion in general to do these things. But we have to become more nuanced. And my argument would be that the Catholic Church is the church that Jesus Christ founded. And historically, we know that to be true. Now it gets more focused, right? Now I don't have to lie to myself like there isn't groups taking advantage of people. Of course there is. And I don't have to lie to myself and act like there isn't bad people even within the Catholic Church. I mean, even among the apostles, there was Judas. But that doesn't mean I abandon the church. Doesn't mean that church is not true. It's the same thing as saying that because there's Mexicans that have raped people, I am no longer Mexican. See, this is why we have to be thorough, especially as men that are supposed to be leading our families. We can't just take these passive positions, because what does that lead to? We know what it leads to. These passive positions, you see these trans kids, confused kids, depressed kids, suicide at astronomical levels. Like, the fruits are apparent. So this is nothing to play with. We as men just can't be like, oh, to each his own, what everybody wants to do. No, son, this is the truth. This is what it is. And we're going to do it together.
Holy shit. Thank you. But, thank you. Thank you very much. But I want you to know something. This is sincere. I want you to know, when it comes to believing in God, I really tried. I really tried. I tried to believe that there is a God who created each of us in his own image and likeness, loves us very much, and keeps a close eye on things. I really tried to believe that, but I got to tell you, the longer you live, the more you look around, the more you realize something is fucked up. Something is wrong here.
Yes, there is. And it's called sin. It's called the fall of man. And we're literally in the middle of the journey. It's not a mystery. God has revealed these things to us. Humans have kept the knowledge of what their ancestors did and how they dealt with God and what happened Something is very messed up, and we're in that process, and that's exactly why we need to know the truth, and we don't need to live in this passive delusion.
War, disease, death, destruction, hunger, filth, poverty, torture, crime, corruption, and the ice capades. Something is definitely wrong.
100%. And then I also, I've been in some very dangerous situations, right? I've been in prison surrounded by murderers and drug addicts that really don't have anything to lose. And sometimes you wonder what's holding all of this together, because it could pop off. A lot of us could die right now. What's holding it all together? What's holding it all together if this country has nukes and this country has this capability and everyone's mad and people are bombing each other, and what's holding it all together? Because what you're saying is not absolute. It's true, but it's not absolute. Things are messed up, but it's not all messed up. Just like this evening, I can have dinner with my family in peace, and somebody else in Africa is not. And then somebody else in a different part of Africa is, right? So there's different times and places and all these different realities. And we have all these evil people, and we seem to only say, all this is messed up, and that's why God don't exist and prayers don't work. But if the devil is true, if the Bible is true, this is the question. If it is true, then what? If it's not true, then what? These are questions we should ask ourselves as men, as leaders of our families. Okay, so if the story is true and we're in this part of the story, then we know that it's playing a purpose, and we know that it's not as bad as it could be, because we know that the devil, being all evil, if he had complete dominion and allowance to fulfill his will, we'd all be dead already. We'd all be suffering and torture and dead already. There would be no grace. There would be no love. There would be no relief. There would be no help. There would be no compassion. So it's not absolute.
This is not good work. If this is the best God can do, I am not impressed. Results like these do not belong on the resume of a supreme being. This is the kind of shit you'd expect from an office temp with a...
But that's what I'm saying. So now he's saying that if this is the best that God can do, well, the best, if we're going with your logic, the best thing that God could have done is make us all holy robots that have no ability of making our own decisions. Maybe if we asked, is this true? And if so, is free will true? And if so, how is that playing out in this? And if so, why is God allowing it? Oh, well, then maybe you would be able to make sense as to why things were allowed to naturally go this way. But God has not abandoned us.
A bad attitude. And just between you and me, in any decently run universe, this guy would have been out on his all-powerful ass a long time ago. And by the way, I say this guy because I firmly believe, looking at these results, that if there is a God, it has to be a man. No woman could or would ever fuck things up like this. So
now he's showing a little bit of his hand, right? He's appealing to women in the feminist movement, which a lot of these liberal, passive, weak men do. Like they'll appeal to the woman and her empowerment, and next thing you know, it's lesbians running the country, and we've seen the fruits of that. So say it has to be a man because a woman wouldn't have messed it up. I mean, this guy's just speaking emotionally and not almost, but very stupidly. There's no intelligence or objectivity in what he's saying.
So
He's just making all the women happy, you know. He's got his wants and needs too.
If there is a God, if there is, I think most reasonable people might agree that he's at least incompetent and maybe, just maybe, doesn't give a shit. Doesn't give a shit.
But that just blows up in the face of all the evidence of him giving a shit. Of so many children around the world being helped by the church. So much humanitarian aid, you know, so many people acting in the good faith of God. You know, who's he to say that he doesn't care? What's he doing for people? You know what I mean?
Which I admire in a person and which would explain a lot of these bad results. So rather than be just another...
He also primed his statement. He said any reasonable person. So if you don't agree with him, you're not reasonable. See, these are great examples of manipulation.
They're mindless religious robot, mindlessly and aimlessly and blindly believing that all of this is in the hands of some spooky, incompetent father figure who doesn't give a shit. I decided to look around for something else.
That's not what the Bible teaches, though. You know, it teaches that we're in collaboration, right? It is dependent on how we respond to the call.
To worship, something I could really count on. And immediately I thought of the sun. Happened like that. Overnight, I became a sun worshiper. Well, not overnight. You can't see the sun at night. The first thing the next morning.
So we can all... So we're going to put the most value on the things that we can always expect, like the sun and the air that were created by God. So you're still relying on God.
I became a sun worshiper. Several reasons. First of all, I can see the sun. Okay.
Okay. Well, many people have seen the Son of God. Many people. I could even pull up a picture. This God has been seen, my guy.
Yeah. Unlike some other gods I could mention, I can actually see the sun. I'm big on that. If I can see something, I don't know, kind of helps the credibility along, you know? So every day I can see the sun as it gives me everything I need: heat, light, food, flowers in the park, reflections on the lake, an occasional skin cancer. But hey, at least there are no crucifixions, and we're not setting people on fire simply because they don't agree with us. Sun worship is fairly simple.
Right now he's talking about setting people on fire. A lot of times this history is misrepresented, and we don't actually know which religious group was setting who on fire. But nonetheless, let's continue.
There's no mystery, no miracles, no pageantry. No one asks for money. There are no songs to learn. And we don't have a special building where we all gather once a week to compare clothing.
I mean, what he's talking about right there is real. You know, there's imperfect people in religion, and you know, a lot of people, and it's not my experience with the Catholic Church, as I have returned for the last 2 years. I do not see a lot of that. I did see a lot of that in the Jehovah's Witnesses. I did see a lot of that in the Jehovah's Witnesses. It's just a hypocritical group of people pretending to be perfect 3 times a week. You know, that can exist. That can exist. But just because that can exist doesn't exclude the other truth.
The best thing about the sun, it never tells me I'm unworthy. Doesn't tell me I'm a bad person who needs to be saved. Hadn't said an unkind word. Treats me fine. So I worship the sun. But I don't pray to the sun. Know why? I wouldn't presume on our friendship. It's not polite. I've often thought people treat God rather rudely, don't you? Asking trillions and trillions of prayers every day, asking and pleading and begging for favors. Do this, give me that. I need a new car. I want a better job.
And this blows up in his face too, because so many of those prayers are answered. So many miracles happen till this day.
And most of this praying takes place on Sunday, his day off. It's not nice, and it's no way to treat a friend. But people do pray, and they pray for a lot of different things. You know, your sister needs an operation on her crotch. Your brother was arrested for defecating in a mall. But most of all, you'd really like to fuck that hot little redhead down at the convenience.
This is a disgusting old man. If my grandpa would speak like this, I'd be heartbroken. There's no honor or nobility in this man. And I was waiting for this moment, actually. You know, I haven't watched this full video, but I was waiting on the moment for him to expose who he really is. And he's just a dirty old man, you know, and he's putting dirty thoughts in people's minds. He's not up there. He don't care about people, man. He cares about himself, his emotions, and the success of his career.
Story. You know, the one with the eye patch and the club foot, huh? Can you pray for that? I think you'd have to. And I say, fine, pray for anything you want. Pray for anything. But what about the divine plan? Remember that? The divine plan. Long time ago, God made a divine plan, gave it a lot of thought, decided it was a good plan, put it into practice. And for billions and billions of years, the divine plan has been doing just fine. Now you come along and pray for something. Well, suppose the thing you want isn't in God's divine plan. What do you want him to do? Change his plan? Just for you? Doesn't it seem a little arrogant? It's a divine plan. What's the use of being God if every rundown schmuck with a $2 prayer book can...
Some of his theology, I don't know where he learned it from. It sounds like Calvinism, but he obviously doesn't have an understanding on that theology and doesn't understand the way that the true church, the Catholic Church, actually teaches God's will. He's calling it a divine plan, but he obviously does not have an understanding of that.
And come along and fuck up your plan. And here's something else, another problem you might have. Suppose your prayers aren't answered. What do you say? Well, it's God's will. Thy will be done. Fine. But if it's God's will and he's going to do what he wants to anyway, why the fuck bother praying in the first place? Seems like a big waste of time to me. Couldn't you just skip the praying part?
We have seen many times in history where God's heart was moved to answer prayers. So what he's saying just blows up in the face of reality and evidence. And to anybody wondering what that reality and evidence is, it's widely available. I would recommend you do what the world's best prosecutor did, and he went out to disprove God, and he is now a member of the church. And thousands and thousands of scientists, historians, archaeologists, geologists that have set out to do the exact same thing. Some of the world's smartest people who are now part of the church because they couldn't disprove it. If anything, what they did was find more evidence. So
I can go right to his will. It's all very confusing. So to get around a lot of this, I decided to worship the sun. But
see, it's all very confusing. So to get around all of this, you just got to listen to people's words. Because he can't understand it, he disqualifies it, outright rejects it, talks crap about it, and then goes and worships, which in itself, worship, it comes from the design that God gave us. So you just got to pay attention to people's words. You'll know their intentions.
As I said, I don't pray to the sun. You know who I pray to? Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci. Two reasons. First of all, I think he's a good actor, okay? To me, that counts. Second, he looks like a guy who can get things done. Joe Pesci doesn't fuck around. Doesn't fuck around. In fact,
and we can go to the world's most capable of men that don't fuck around. and they'll tell you they go to God. So this just blows up in his face again, you know, and he's just being funny. He's just adding to his comedic presentation here. But yeah, man.
In fact, Joe Pesci came through on a couple of things that God was having trouble with. For years, I asked God to do something about my noisy neighbor with the barking dog. Joe Pesci straightened that cocksucker out with one visit. It's amazing what you can accomplish with a simple baseball bat. So I've been praying to Joe for about a year now, and I noticed something. I noticed that all the prayers I used to offer to God and all the prayers I now offer to Joe Pesci are being answered at about the same 50% rate. Half the time I get what I want, half the time I don't. Same as God, 50-50. Same as the four-leaf clover and the horseshoe.
Again, he's making this all about himself. When I pray to God, when I pray to Joe Pesci, you know, I receive 50% of this. You know, it's all I. You know, when reality is so much bigger than just you or I.
The wishing well and the rabbit's foot, same as the mojo man, same as the voodoo lady who tells you your fortune by squeezing the goat's testicles. It's all the same, 50-50. So just pick your superstition, sit back, make a wish, and enjoy yourself. And for those of you who look to the Bible for moral lessons and literary qualities, I might suggest a couple of other stories for you. You might want to look at The Three Little Pigs. That's a good one. Has a nice, happy ending. I'm sure you'll like that. Then there's Little Red Riding.
He just wants to be disrespectful. I assume that's the most substance we're going to be able to get out of this. Obviously, we're not getting anything intellectually or morally honest, or historically or scientifically honest.
Oh, it does have that X-rated part where the big bad wolf actually eats the grandmother, which I didn't care for, by the way. And finally, I've always drawn a great deal of moral comfort from Humpty Dumpty. The part I like the best, all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty Dumpty back together.
Okay, so obviously this is going to continue to that extent. I hope I answered enough here. And if you guys would like to learn more about these evidences, which what I noticed is most people don't. You know, people want to believe what they want to believe, and when you present them with evidence, they just don't reply to it, don't respond to it, neglect it, pretend it's not there, and so they can continue on their comfortable ride to their ultimate death, which we all will one day meet. So if you want to believe that we just live a pointless life and you're going to have this attitude of this guy right here, I will pray for you. Peace.